in a world. No. Okay. So we'll open up our line art and just review a couple of things that we did the other day. And you probably have this already set up, but let's do this together. I'm going to pull my swatches out over here for now. I'm going to tab my color in there. I'm going to shut down my channels and paths because I don't need those right now. So the first thing we did is duplicate our background layer. We added 3 blank layers. Again, if you don't end up using all of these layers because you end up doing gradients, you may not have shadows and highlights to put on separate layers. But the main objective is that you do all of the painting on the blank layer, and you can also make selections on the blank layer. Before we start making selections, we're going to add, I think we added a posterized layer, and that allows us to get rid of the gray and just have that really clean black and white. Okay, so are we all on the same page? Cool. All right, so let me talk you through how to make gradients. If you click over in the toolbar, it is the G tool, which is also roommates with the bucket tool and the 3D material drop tool. So we're going to activate the gradient. If you click up here in the toolbar, you'll see a gradient already, and you click right on it, and it opens up the gradient editor. So if I wanted to make these, you know, like metal color, kind of frosty colors, I can do that. So I'm going to name this Frosty. The color stops are on the bottom, and the opacity stops are on the top. So if I want to change this from pink to maybe a nice frosty blue, I can. If I want to add another color, I can by clicking anywhere along the bottom and changing the color. And I may not want a black at the end. I may want like maybe a gray. So you can see, oops. Now I accidentally made another stop. If you do that, all you have to do is select it and drag it off. At the top are the opacity stops. And you can see that there's an area of transparency in here now. And you can make as many of those as you like or move those around as you like. And if you make too many of them, same thing, just pull it right off. So that's looking pretty good. I don't think I need an opacity stop in there. And I'm going to hit new, and now it's right there. Okay, it's named custom. I tried to name it Frosty. Let's see, new. Is that one named Frosty? Yes, Frosty. Okay, so hit OK. We'll zoom in here. We'll grab the magic wand for selections. You can select on the midtones layer or the background copy, but in order to select on this blank layer, you need to have sample all layers checked. If it's not, and you're on that blank layer, it will select the entire thing. There's no pixels for it to select. So we'll hit Command D to deselect and go back to background copy. Or midtones if you want to just stay right on there. Hit sample all layers. Click a spot, hold down the shift to add to that selection. And then if I want to apply a gradient to that, the gradient I just made, I can hit the keyboard shortcut G, Frosty's loaded up, and I have several options for how I want it to go. I can do linear, radial, angle, reflected, or diamond. So if we just want to do it linear, you could do it like that. And you can see that that actually would work perfectly as far as adding like presumed highlights and shadows and things like that. So gradient is a good option. The other option is to go in and use Cooler, which we loaded the other day. Do you guys remember how to get on there and pull it up? Okay. Window, extensions, and Cooler. So you can go in here, type in Hoth, see if there's other people. Yep, I knew it. these are the colors of, look, there's several colors of Hoth. So you could say, well, this is the one I want. Click right here to add to swatches panel, and it will appear at the bottom of the swatches panel. Or you can click here, and another choice is to edit this theme. That will pull up this window where you can select any of these samples and change them. So if I want to start there, I can change any one of the colors. I can also ask it for complementary colors, shades of colors, kind of like the grays. And then at the bottom, you can say add this theme to swatches. Click, and it'll appear up at the top. Okay. Sound good? One more thing, if we go online and we Google, say, what's one of your favorite paintings? Like, or a favorite photograph? How about Magritte? We'll talk about color. Let's pull up Magritte. He's got some very interesting colors. Oh, and I'm thinking Matisse. Okay. Ah, there we go. So if we select one of these, we can save this image to the desktop. And then in Photoshop, place it as a layer. File, place, Matisse, place, and it comes in a bounding box. So you do need to apply transformation and say, yes, I do want to take it by hitting this check or hitting return. And you'll see that it's its own separate layer. And you can use the eyedropper tool to select colors, which will appear as your foreground swatch. And then you can save this color as a swatch. Okay? Add to swatches. And you could call it Matisse 1. And then you'll see that that shows up right here. Matisse 1. So if there's a favorite painting and you want, oh, I want to do this entire thing, like based off this photograph or this painting that I really like. Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn off that layer. And you can just leave that layer on there. If you choose to do your colors with, let's say, we'll select up here. If you choose to do it with more solid colors, that's fine too. Once that's selected, you can hit the brush tool, B is the shortcut. Click on your foreground color to pull up your color picker. That's how you like to work. Maybe we'll pick kind of a nice purple. Hit OK. And then when you paint over it, the paint will only go into what is selected. To add shadows, you could select like a dark gray brush. I'm sorry, dark gray color. And a nice soft brush. And if you want to presume the light to be coming from the side, then shadows would be one place. Light coming from the top, shadows might be in here. Kind of. And you might be like, wow, that's pretty aggressive. It is. It is a really aggressive thing. So for the shadows layer, I'm going to take the opacity down a lot to maybe like 20, 25%. It's kind of hard to see on the screen. And then if your lines are very noticeable, like you see how you can kind of see, like light wouldn't perform like that, you can go in and blur when you're all done adding your shadows and highlights. Go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and give it a little bit of a blur to soften it up. So at 8 pixels, that starts to look a little more natural. I'm going to up the opacity just so you can see it. And then for highlights, select the brush. You could pick a much warmer gray. And again, it's kind of tricky because you really have got to know where the light would be. So if the light's coming from this angle, this would all be in highlight, right? Here, and then this back here would be in shadow. So you're going to have to kind of figure that out, but it's very simple to do. Highlights, you just bring the opacity of that layer down also, and then you can also apply a blur. There's plenty of ways to figure out how to do it. Also, someone was doing some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to go back up here for a second. On the, see, we'll pick midtones. I noticed one of you guys were using the mixer brush, which worked awesome. So if you pick okay, and then you want to switch to the mixer brush, you can do that and find a good brush that may give you some good shadows. And you could pick a color here, like a light gray. Oops, wrong layer. Up there, there, okay. Highlights, sample all layers. And you could bring it down and play with, maybe you want, whoa, that's a little trippy. Okay, so maybe that's a little trippy, too much. But you could take the opacity of the layer down. You could also add some distress to the metal this way. I mean, this is kind of a war machine. You can put some personality into it. You could add graffiti this way. So the mixer brush is not out of the question. If you want to add areas of flat color and then go back with the mixer brush to add a little bit of three-dimensional space and some wear and tear. All right? Any questions? I literally feel like